Hello. You can probably already tell that I sound a little bit different this time. This is going to be a much more intimate session, I suppose. I am not in my usual recording space. I'm not at home. I did bring enough material so that I'd be able to record an episode. Actually, this one and the next one are going to be like this, but I'm on the road. I don't even have a mic stand. I'm just holding this mic up against my face and talking into it quietly, and right now I'm recording this while there's somebody sleeping in another room of the house. Hopefully this is not too bothersome for you, because as I said, this is probably how it's going to sound both this time and the next session, but I figured you'd prefer this to me just skipping a couple of weeks. So, with all that out of the way, let's get on to the actual show.
Stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emile Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY572. With every installment, we follow Emile's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforge series.
Hey, back to this kind of talking. So last time was a session that was really a lot about working on the drill that we're going to need for this project. You know, in the background, we've had a lot of people working on the outside, digging trenches through the ash and sand and everything. So everything on the outside of the cave that the Reacher is in. But in case it hasn't been clear, there's a long section that's probably utterly covered by the walls of the cave itself, where there's just magma flow. There's too much hard rock in the way. We're going to have to drill through, and it's going to be too close to the magma itself. So last session we both retrieved the old broken down digging unit that helped carve out the halls of Concord itself before it broke down. We worked on getting that back into operational order successfully. We did that with the help of a droid named Buzzard that we had fixed up along the way. Buzzard has been exhibiting a little bit in the way of some unusual behavior. We found out last time that as a result of the influence of the Chaos Crystal, Buzzard is actually becoming more sentient than his design is ever intended to be. I think I want it to be that in this setting, it is exceptionally rare and maybe even illegal to have any self-aware artificial intelligence inside of a physical body. Now, we have seen Deuce in the past, one of Laztec's robot lawyers who would qualify for that. It may be that that's not actually legal. He may be something of a secret. Or maybe they have a special dispensation, and maybe it's just a matter of like what kind of bodies they can even be in. But the type that Buzzard has should not be able to be self-aware. And ordinarily wasn't. It was just a body that would take orders. But now he is, and Buzzard said no. He refused orders, and that was a little bit weird. But ultimately, Emile kind of moved on with his day and got back to a lot of crafting last time. We got the drill operational, wound up working on a system whereby he did a lot of testing to find out that some of the rock inside the cave would be able to withstand the heat of the lava for long enough, and it would buy him a good 30 minutes to maybe an hour or so if you pushed it of just heat shielded time in any given go. And so he worked on a system to protect the outside of the drill, just the body of it all, with this just rock housing. Towards the end of last session, we learned that Emile had forgotten something, which was to consider the drill itself. If you covered the drill with that same rock, it would not be effective as a drill, and yet without it, the drill would not be able to withstand the heat, and it would also not be effective as a drill. Emile got very frustrated by that, and was able to calm down with a little bit of a moment between him and Firestarter. Firestarter talked him through this idea that, hey, we all fail at this. You just keep trying. You come up with a new design, you keep thinking around it. And they got a little bit closer as a result of that conversation. Firestarter proposed a system where maybe they could enclose the drill in a kind of housing that would just cover it from the lava only until they got to the target, put it up against the wall and then open it up and maybe kind of collapse in, be sort of like an outer shell of the drill that's not truly like on top of it, but just gives it a bit of a tube that it can work through, that it can maybe purge lava out of. It's going to take some more design to make that actually work. But that's kind of where we left off, was with this idea that maybe Emile would have to pivot a little bit, but there were still ways forward. This time, however, I want to start off with a vignette. I think this one takes place in the communications center, where we see all the same kind of typical people at like a whole bunch of stations at here, like listening in for all kinds of signs of other ships coming by. It's a lot of people mostly just being paranoid to make sure this place is still a secret and there are no signs of any ships incoming, especially right now when we know the Imperium might be. And is also just kind of the base of operations of Valkyrie. And so we see Valkyrie in there with a number of these people that are at their stations, and they have indeed received a message. It's encoded, and so they've been taking a good portion of the day decoding this, but it's by their own standard protocols, and this is a message from the Beowulf. Now, they have not seen the Beowulf in the skies yet. Nobody has picked up the arrival. Beowulf is not there. There's a message sent back over some manner of secure channel. Maybe this happens over the sector net, but only through particular places that kind of bounce around through various mirrored sources to try and hide where it's coming from and where it's going. And then, of course, the content itself is indeed ciphered. But they decipher it, and we see Valkyrie just reading it up on the screen. And Tycoon has announced that Tycoon reports in that certainly the message has gone out over the sector net into the various places where the Vault Hunters tend to try and leave their secret communications, and awareness has been spread of the situation. There may be some individual smaller ships that are going to come, but it's not really certain. People have not been especially fully committed in a way that he's certain of. He announces that as a result of this, he's been trying to move along to Newton's Folly, a ship that is known to be very well armed, much like the Beowulf, would be a tremendous asset in the potential fight that's oncoming. The problem is that they are known to run with radio silence. They do not exchange messages over the sector net. He's gotten some word on where they were last sighted and has been doing his best to chase them down and exchanges this in person, but he has not yet been close enough to send the tight beam. This is in progress. He hopes to be able to do so and convince them to come back and get there as soon as possible, but it's not yet clear when he'll be able to return. He wishes them all the luck in Emile's plan and hopes that he is not too late by the time he gets there, but that right now there wouldn't be enough of them anyway. And so there's a bit of despair with looking at this message. Valkyrie turns the screen off, takes a big long breath, and says, "This doesn't change anything. We knew from the beginning that we would not know when they're going to arrive and when the Beowulf is going to return. We've only ever been able to count on how much we can do in that time. Salvaging the Reacher has always been the everything. We're putting all of our resources into it, and we'll continue to. The arrival of the Beowulf and Newton's Folly would be a bonus, but we do not need them. We are capable, and we will still win this fight." And before we cut out of that little vignette, we do get kind of one last shot of her face when she's not facing everybody. Once everybody turns back to their stations and has appropriately been like morale kind of raised. It's probably not like people give her the benefit of the doubt, I guess, but it's not like a big triumphant cheer or anything like that. Just spirits are raised a little bit, but we see when her face is not turned towards anybody, like she's not a full believer in those words. Valkyrie may well start trying to make plans on like, what do we do if the Imperium gets here? If we can't win the fight, what do we do? Do we go out swinging, even though we know that it's a lost cause? Do we accept being imprisoned again? Do we hide? Do we what? She's doing all these calculations because she's not convinced. So we're going to move our momentum up to +9, and we're going to move back to Emile. Now, we spent a lot of last time all based on doing just lots and lots of crafting stuff in the workshop, much as that's still going to be a part of what's necessary to finish out this project, I want to change up the pace a little bit, and I had some ideas on that. Oh, you know what? I need to roll to see if the Magpie coup clock goes up a little bit. Last session spanned over the course of probably like a couple of weeks or so. I think that's enough to move up. When we roll this Ask the Oracle, I think we can go from, what did we do? Did we do small chance last time? I want to move it up a category. Let me see. Yes, last time we did small chance. I'm going to move it back up to unlikely, because this is still something that takes time, but he's had a few weeks now. So unlikely that Magpie has been able to advance his coup and get another person on his side. But actually, no, I'm going to bump it up 2 categories. I'm going to bump it up to 50-50 because I think word is starting to spread of like the despair of all of this, that Beowulf might not be back in time. Like, it doesn't stay contained to that room. And so I think it might be easier for him to start finding allies to convince that, like, hey, Valkyrie might not have this. We may be fucked, and I'm the only person who can protect you. So I'm going to bump it up to 50-50. Has Magpie's coup attempt advanced? Yes, it has. And that indeed needed to be 50-50 to succeed. Unlikely it wouldn't have. So we do fill in the second quadrant on that. And we need to come up with another person that Magpie has swayed over to represent that, who is another big key to power. This could well be somebody that is indeed in the communications room, somebody within Valkyrie's inner circle like that. That would be somebody who can know her on everything she's doing, everything she's thinking, somebody like a confidant. If they've turned towards Magpie, they could probably deliver more of the people in like the communications room. If it came down to a more violent coup, like they'd know her comings and goings. Yeah, let's go with that. This is going to be one of the people in the communications room that Valkyrie is closer with, but is a leak. They're perhaps the reason why that little speech and like the news from Beowulf spread out more and more. So we're going to roll a little bit about them. Their call sign is Flatline. Oh, I like the idea, if we think back to how like this place used to be all like running in silence. They wanted radio silence. They did all of their little sign language. Maybe Flatline is the one, because I like the idea of that representing like a flat waveform of just silence. Maybe Flatline was the one who initially, when they were in prison, but before the prison break, when everybody knew that they had these implants, developed this sign language and taught everybody that. And so like they're an expert in communications of all kinds, and maybe they developed this system. Maybe they just already knew it. Not sure about that. I'm going to do that as a 50-50. I'm just leaving that up to fate. So did Flatline, it doesn't really matter, but did Flatline develop this system of sign language? 50-50? No. Oh, that was a 98. That would have been a no, even on almost certain. So Flatline already knew this, just some version of sign language from before. Maybe I don't think that Flatline is like mute or unspeaking or anything like that. I think maybe they knew somebody who was like have a relative. They learned it for one reason or another. Maybe it was just always a handy thing to learn, given the secrecy of the Vault Hunters. So Flatline taught the sign language. We're going to roll a couple of first looks on them. They are alluring and energetic. Interesting companion to being called Flatline and being energetic like that, but okay, alluring and energetic. I'm not going to roll a character roll because we know, I'm going to say Flatline, she works in the communications room, just monitoring signals and processing and probably does a lot of the like code breaking stuff. Yeah, Flatline should be good at those kind of like different systems of encoding and decoding information, including sign language. I'm trying to decide whether or not I feel like doing a full-on little scene this time, or if that's honestly enough. Like, it's just kind of implied. We know that at some point, Flatline was talking to Magpie about all of what's going on in there, and lets Magpie know that some of the inner circle is getting, like, not so convinced. That Valkyrie is kind of cracking under a little bit of the pressure, because Flatline was able to tell. And I think knows Magpie well enough even before all this. It's not like before where Magpie had to really kind of like sell the idea to Vert. I think Flatline is enough in the know to know that Magpie has always been ambitious and a little bit of a political player. And she just indeed lets him know that the state of things. And I want to say that, like, I don't think Flatline even likes Magpie. I think that's more interesting. If Flatline, like, as a person, thinks that he's kind of he's a piece of shit. She doesn't like him, but she's losing enough faith in Valkyrie's control of this situation that she purposely lets slip this information to him, knowing that maybe he could do better. She's not so certain that Valkyrie was just the natural leader to take over. It seems like she's given a lot of control away to Emile. She's not really a strong executive. She seems to just be kind of waiting and hoping. And say what you will about Magpie, but she gets the impression that Magpie would at least have a plan of action. So yeah, I don't think they even meet face to face. I think that Magpie gets a surprise note left in the kitchen or something, or private quarters, or just someplace that is just Magpie's, and it's just a breakdown of everything that they just heard from the Beowulf. And pretty simply that. And Magpie opens it up and reads it and smiles, because he not only knows what this means for what's going on in Valkyrie's inner circle, but he understands where this came from, and that this is also a signal that the people on the inside in the communications room, they could be swayed. Okay, so now actually back to Emile. And as I was mentioning, I wanted to change it up a little bit from just being like, let's just repair things the whole time. And the way that I thought to do that is I want to focus a little bit more on this problem where they're all alone out here. They can't count on having these allies, and maybe there's some work that's happening in the background where Emile is doing a little bit of redesigning and working on, the work that has to come next to make that housing that they were talking about with Firestarter. Like, that's a thing going on, but they keep running into problems these days where, yeah, they have the big junk pile, but they don't have, there's not a lot in the way of supplies here. He's working off of just junk. And yes, he can repurpose some things. There's a lot that Emile can do as a scavenger, but he's still very limited, and they just don't have allies. I want to pivot a little bit as far as, while that stuff continues in the background, while the digging is still going on and the mining, and there's still some stuff being done to maybe some of the manufacture of just the actual outer body of the drill, like the heat plating and everything, that's still going on. He realized it wasn't going to work, but there was still manufacture to be done. And so with Firestarter's help, that's kind of still happening in the background. But I think Emile has a new proposal to Valkyrie. And this is very much a private meeting. This is in just Valkyrie's office. It's at kind of the end of the communications room, but there's indeed a private office in there where Emile says to her, it starts off with just kind of an update on how things are going. And he's not going to lie to her. Progress is moving, but it's not exactly like he's got wonderful news just yet, especially with this latest problem that he's encountered. And that's exactly not what Valkyrie wants to hear. Valkyrie really needed some good news. And Emile tells her, look, I promise you, Cypher and I have been managing this as best we can. She's been fantastic, by the way. Really couldn't do this without her. But the truth of the matter is that, we're up against it. There's not a lot of supply around here. I'm not saying we're fucked, by the way. Just that it takes time. But I know that we only have so much time. But I have an idea on that that's definitely going to need your approval. There's no way I was going to do this without consulting you first. And Valkyrie, her brow is already kind of furrowing slightly at hearing that. Just goes, uh-huh. Well, look, to be blunt, word has gotten around a little bit that we're not exactly going to be getting any allies around here anytime soon. No expectation of the Beowulf's return. Nothing like that. You don't have to confirm it, but word has been getting around. And just get to the damn point. I'm tired. Emile, I'm tired. Right. Well, we're not that far from people that I at least consider allies. Within this sector, within the hidden breach, the last place that Beowulf stopped on our way back to even get to you was Hyperion Station. Look, it's a station full of shipbuilders and repairers. And to be blunt, I really pulled them out of the fire. There was a situation where there was an attempted takeover by Laztec, and I thwarted it. They're free because of me. The last time we were there, they treated me like a hero. I say this all not to brag, but to say that I think if you let me send a message to Hyperion Station and ask for aid, maybe even just enough aid just for somebody to come down here, pick me up and bring me to Hyperion Station, buy new supplies, continue negotiations with them in person, like more secretly where it's not over the sector net. They wouldn't even have to come here to the base itself. It could just be to Cinder. But if I could get a ride over there and convince Hyperion to send help, real help, that might not just be supplies. That could be actual ships, fighters. They build and repair ships there. This could be a godsend. We might be able to have a full-on fleet if I do this right. Now, it's a big ask, so I don't want to set expectations too high, but just know that last time we were there, it seemed like they certainly felt like they owed me. And sure, easy enough for that to be the case of just sharing good food, good drinks, and hospitality, all of that. This would be asking for more than that, but I'm just saying, I don't personally have a more receptive audience for that kind of request. And they're nearby. They're just a couple of jumps away. I've already have the route plotted. Just let me send a message to them. We could have help. And let's make a roll out of this. This is definitely an attempt for him to compel, and it's an important one. Were I doing this as another game, I might give myself a bonus +1 just out of like the situation, kind of like Valkyrie is kind of desperate. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do this as straight compel, especially because we have high momentum. This is going to be a heart roll easily. This is definitely not either of the other two. So I'm rolling with heart, and we get... Okay, it's a weak hit, and I indeed can't improve it with momentum. The top die roll was a 10. So they'll do what you want or agree to your conditions. But there is a demand or a complication. Envision the counteroffer and take 1 momentum. Now, I can't take the momentum. We're maxed out because we're at 9, and right now, because we're unprepared, we can't get to 10. Valkyrie heaves a deep, deep sigh because secrecy has always been an incredibly important part of all of this. I think there are a couple of important caveats. The first one is that definitely, like, the message cannot let them know where the base itself is. Emile is going to, like, she agrees. He can send, like, the message can't be specific enough for any of that. It can send them to Cinder, to a different spot where the base isn't, where they could pick him up, take him back to Hyperion, where he can better, like, have out this communications with them in full. But in addition to that, nobody can know about this. Not even Cypher. Emile has to do this completely secretly. She will get him time in the communications room to be able to do this. He needs to clean up his trail. There cannot be any logs that this happened. Valkyrie doesn't want anybody to know in case this goes wrong. Like, Emile is saying, like, well, I mean, certainly if this goes right, if they send a bunch of help, eventually people are going to know something must have happened. And Valkyrie says, don't worry about that. If we are that fortunate, I will take care of that when that comes. You don't worry about that. I'm just trying to protect us from, in case they say no. Nobody needs to have their hopes raised until it's actually official. Nobody needs to know of the danger we're doing by drawing more eyes to this planet. Emile, do you understand me? I cannot be more serious about saying not one soul who is not in this room right now knows about you reaching out to Hyperion. You need to set up an alibi, because presumably if they pick you up, you're going to be gone for a bit. Nobody can know where the pickup is. Nobody can notice you're gone. Handle all of it. Can you do that? I think I can. Can you do that? Yeah. With your help. You're going to have to help me give legitimacy to my alibi, but we can do it. Valkyrie, I can do this. They will send help. Emile, don't promise things like that. I don't like you enough to want to believe in you. And you don't have enough room to fall if you're wrong. So what's your alibi going to be? It's going to have to cover several days, right? And it can't just be that I'm working on things in the shop because, well, Firestarter works in there. He's certainly going to notice I'm not around. More tests. I've got to do more heat-proofing tests over by the Reacher. Everybody knows, including Firestarter, that I have been working on the plating. Long-form tests. We will shift the schedule so that people won't see me coming back and forth. It's an isolated location. Nobody will be able to verify if I'm there or not. I will certainly make sure that it is noted that I have spent enough time bringing enough supplies to that location. I'll pull it off. Just support that if anybody's asking any questions. All right. Come back here tonight after whatever hour. I'm going to make sure the room is cleared out. I'll tell everybody that they need a break. It's been too stressful lately. They need a night off. I'll tell them that I'll watch the comms. I'm going to give them leave. Show up afterwards. Knock on the door like so. And she gives like some particular knock. You know, 3 knocks, then 2 knocks, then 3 knocks, then 1 knock. You know, some kind of stupid thing like that. Knock like this. I'll know it's you. I'll let you in. We'll get you set up on one of these stations. Send out your message. Think very carefully about how you're going to word it, because I'm going to need to approve it before it goes out. Yeah. No, I will. Okay. So let's do some of that preparation stuff. So Emile has a few, like before he does the actual message, let's just do this kind of in part. So we need that out. Like I need to figure out which parts of these really need rolls and which ones don't. Like I do want there to be danger involved, but some things probably are easy enough to implement that they don't really need to have rolls. But I think it's just more dramatically interesting if we represent, the main person that's going to need to be convinced by Emile's alibi is probably Firestarter, because Firestarter is the one who sees him most often. And he's going to be the most suspicious when Emile is not working on that project. And, he's going to need to convince him by taking the right kinds of things. Like, I'm not going to make him roll to, like, get the right materials over there and, like, be able to truly do it to convince the rest of the colony. But I am going to do a quick compel roll. And this one is going to be a lie, which Emile is not good at. It's a good thing we have so much momentum. So I'm not going to role play it out because we get the point of what the lie is and everything, but this compel roll is just going to represent whether or not Emile can convince Firestarter that what he is actually doing is spending days on end doing tests out by the Reacher to improve certain systems on, some new reconfigurations on the heat shroud and everything like that. So basically, what I am trying to persuade Firestarter of is that is true, and that he will back that up if anybody asks, because he thinks it's true. So this is going to be a shadow move. I have no ads on this, and definitely I'm not good at it, but we have a lot of momentum on our side. So let's see what happens. Ooh, I actually got a strong hit with a match without even using momentum. It's only a 3-3 match, but hey. So Firestarter completely buys it. Take +1 momentum, which I can't. So what are we going to do on the match here? Something minor. I think that maybe Firestarter gives Emile like a small gift, like something that would theoretically be useful during that. Let's see. What kind of thing might Firestarter give Emile? Oh, how about we do it like this? Okay, so Firestarter, when talking out like what Emile's going to be doing and everything, offhandedly mentions that Emile's health is still only at 1. Obviously, that's not what he mentions, but as a result of that, like Firestarter has noticed, like Emile's been running himself a little bit ragged. He hasn't really gotten a chance to do a lot of rest. And if he's going to be spending this much time in a very hot, like bi-magma environment, he could use like maybe Firestarter gives him a kind of like something that he has gotten from the infirmary, from the, I forget what we called it, the trenches. He used some of his credits to get this thing a long time ago now. It's something that he did like specifically for Emile, but it helps him out during some of the times where things get a little bit haywire in here. It's just like this really nice cooling, it's like icy hot basically. It's like this cooling gel you can spread on yourself, but also it is somewhat restorative as well. But importantly, it gives you a, like if you smear it all over your skin, it gives you some better heat tolerance. Possibly even a little bit of tolerance to like the outside caustic air of this planet. And so, yeah, I think Firestarter gives him that, saying like, if you're going to be spending that much time there, your skin is not going to be loving you, especially if you're sleeping there day and night. Here, a little bit of a secret weapon over here that I've used for similar situations when really getting into the nitty gritty on some hot equipment. What is it? What, are you telling me you've never seen some cryogel before? Yeah, it's simple stuff. You just slather it all over. It'll keep you cool. Protects your skin from some of the worst environments. Think of it like, it's like really good sunscreen. Ah, well, thanks. I'll keep that in mind. Be safe out there, Spencer. While we're in here, I do want to roll a quick Oracle move to see, like, how has Firestarter's work on the food system been going? Like he's now been working on it for a long time. Has he gotten that back? I'm going to up it to, at this point, it's still probably 50-50. It's still a very complicated system, but he's had more time to work on it. Is that operational again? Yes. And that's a 15, so that would have, the only time that wouldn't have been yes is on small chance. So, nice. Okay, so Firestarter has actually finished that project probably pretty recently. And maybe he even says like, you know, this whole shop's going to be a little bit lonely. Neither of us are going to be in here. I've got final implementations on the chaos regulator complete. I just need to get it installed. Almost back to the regular food around here. Well, see you when I see you. So Firestarter is convinced. And that was the big one I was really worried about. Because again, most people, it's not like he would be interacting with them that much. I could make him make a roll for Cypher, but again, I think it's not like he interacts with her all the time. So I don't know that I need to represent it with anybody else. At best, maybe Fern. But the question is Emile even going to hide it from Fern? You know, the rest of these Vault Hunters don't typically consider Fern even like a person exactly. And, you know, technically Fern isn't. I think Emile is probably just going to ask, he's not going to tell anything to Fern just yet. He's going to just ask he's just going to ask Valkyrie about that when they meet tonight. Let's see. I think the only other thing then is we need to actually send out the message, but I'm thinking about trying to secure an advantage to just like really prepare exactly what I'm going to say. Nah, that's not deserving of its own roll. That's just fishing for +1s. So let's just skip to that. Let's go back to tonight. So he meets up with Valkyrie in the room, gives the special knock and everything. It's just the two of them in there. Valkyrie has been successful at clearing out the place. You know, didn't really have to tell the crew twice that night shift wouldn't have to come in, that everybody just deserves a little bit of a time off to spend however they choose. Maybe some people are a little bit suspicious, but they don't care enough to question it. So Emile comes up with a message, and he's probably going to keep it pretty simple. He's going to send it via SectorNet to Minna. Now, they don't have any particular ways that they encode their information. You know, Minna wouldn't know how to decipher something if Emile wrote it in code, so he's just going to have to write it in plain English, basically, or whatever language they speak. But I think it's going to more or less say that, you know, this is Emile. He has found himself stranded on Cinder. He gives the coordinates of that. Could really use a pickup at, you know, gives some specific coordinates on the planet. A return to Hyperion would be much appreciated. I think it's just going to be that there's not going to be any indication of the larger problem. Again, he's going to give more specifics in person. I think at best it's going to make it clear, like, as soon as possible, supplies are low. Something like that. Just pretty simple, calling for help. He's nearby, needs help as soon as possible. And I don't think we even need to roll for Valkyrie to approve that. That all sounds within the realms of what she's already approved. There's nothing in particular that would be a problem that he put in there. Short of saying the planet, but he kind of has to begin with. Like, she already agreed to that. She agrees to the coordinates of the spot that he mentions, gives a nod, and then Emile's going to send that out. So this is going to be yet another compel move. As we make our third compel move in a row, this is once again going to be heart. And yeah, let's see how this goes. Ooh, okay, so this is a miss, but I could burn all of my momentum to turn it into a strong hit, and that is absolutely what we're going to do. So we go all the way down to +1 momentum, but we get our strong hit. They'll do what you want or agree to your conditions. Take 1 momentum, so we go back up to +2. And yeah, sucks to have to burn all of that before we do the real ask, which is like, hey, we need a fleet full of people to come from Hyperion Station. But at the very least, Minna is able to respond to Emile saying, like, basically like, so glad you have the capability to at least reach out. We have a ship en route now. Stay safe. Something like that. It's just perfectly receptive to the information. Emile looks at that and points to Valkyrie and says, like, see, look, they're receptive. This can go well. Just, I hope this comes off the right way, but I promise you I'm not bailing. This isn't just my way off this planet. Again, I really hope that doesn't come off the wrong way, but I promise you I'll be back. In fact, I've changed my mind about a thing. Emile is going to say in this moment, to help assure you that that's the case. You know about my Feroid friend, Fern, here, right? We've been traveling together for a long time. Yeah, I'm aware that you have some unconventional companions. What about Fern? You know we're close. I have not told Fern the truth of this. Fern doesn't know what's going on. And to help assure you that I am coming back, Fern is going to stay here. I want to treat this actually as a secure an advantage. This is kind of an attempt to gain leverage in the sense that, like, I'm trying to get on better terms with Valkyrie and put Valkyrie's mind at ease that, like, here's proof that I'm coming back. So this is also going to be a heart move. There's definitely sociability that is informing this. Emile's just trying to make it clear, like, I'm not fucking you over right now. Making sure that she sees what's actually true. Like, he's not intending to. Now, that being said, certainly a good opportunity. Like, if Emile turns tail and abandons all of these vows, he certainly could, but I don't plan to. So we're going to make a heart roll. Okay, we get a weak hit, which means I could either take 2 momentum or 1 on my next move. I think it makes more sense for me to take the momentum here because this isn't really setting up what we'd be doing next in any way. It's just things are going a little bit better. Valkyrie nods. We see, like, she's still just so troubled by everything right now and goes, yeah, sure. Just make sure to clean up the logs on there. Do your thing. Emile goes, right, okay. We're going to do that as just like a quick face danger in here as he attempts to indeed clean up any trail that he used this computer's night that anybody did. Make sure there are no logs of this message going out. Because I think he couldn't just do it from his own personal comlink. Like, in order to get this over to Hyperion and quickly enough, like, he needed to use their better array and, like, connect to the sector net through more official channels than he could do just from his computer. So anyway, we're definitely, this is under the realm of, like, disrupting an electronic system or configuring it. Like, it's kind of all of these in a way, configuring, hacking. We're cleaning up our trail. So we get to add a +1 to this face danger. And as we recall, if we get a weak hit, we'll be able to press our luck if we so choose. I'm not going to make a computer program to specifically do this, but let's do our wits with a +1. Ooh, that is a miss. So you fail or momentary success is undermined by a dire turn of events. Pay the price. I think what this means, I'm not going to up the tension clocks on the arrival of the fleets, because I don't feel like this has been enough time. It's not related enough for really that to make sense. But I am actually going to tick up the campaign clock on the Magpie coup. We're now at 3 out of 4 on that, because Emile thought he was cleaning up his attempts, but we're going to say that Flatline is indeed like pretty closely monitoring. Like, Flatline has her own systems in place for all of this shit. She monitors communications and everything. She has she gets live notifications to her own comlink, like when this sort of shit happens. So Flatline looked into this message going out. She saw it happening and then saw the cleanup effort remotely, notes it, and perhaps even spreads the word a little bit to the various crew members who were having a night off in here that were all kind of hanging out. Flatline spreads the word, and I think it more solidifies the hey, Valkyrie is doing shit behind our backs. Maybe we need to consider other options. And it pushes people closer to the possibility of more and more people in the right positions are going to be okay with Magpie taking over. So that is teetering on the edge now. There's only one more little pie chunk to fill in there for that to happen. And I think that's the one that makes the most sense. So, Emile gets into position. Here's the tricky part. He needs to be at an area that's far away from Concord base. But he can't just he needs nobody to know that he goes there. Now, there's a plan in place for the operation of all the skiffs and everything, so if you were to take a skiff over and just leave it there, that would be noticed by Cypher. Because Cypher is in control of managing this whole operation, he can't just take one and leave it like that. So I think, honestly, Emile might need to... Emile could maybe convince Buzzard, because Buzzard is not a person. As far as he knows, he doesn't recognize that Buzzard has any sentience. So Buzzard is just a tool. Tools clearly couldn't count based on what Valkyrie... he's going to try and convince Buzzard to give him a ride on a skiff and then return the skiff. That's it. It's just going to be at night when most people are sleeping. Emile's going to sneak into the workshop and give this command, because it's already night. The ship is en route. So Emile finds Buzzard just kind of in a idle mode over in the side of the workshop, maybe plugged in to gain back some more power, just in a little bit of a docking station. And Emile rouses Buzzard and says, hey, Buzzard issuing a new command to you. Follow. And I think that much is fine. I'm not going to do this moment by moment because I want to get on to the real stuff, but Buzzard follows Emile out to the skiff's area, and I think because of the sentience problem, I'm just going to represent this as, it's not a face danger move, but it's again it's a question for the oracles. Buzzard has a home. He might be willing to go out enough to go to the skiff, but when it becomes clear that he needs to drive Emile elsewhere and that's getting a little bit more questionable. It's dangerous out there. So I'm going to ask the Oracle if Buzzard is going to agree to this, or if Buzzard is going to if he's going to give Emile a problem here. I think it's again just a 50-50. We're going to basically flip a coin here and see what happens. So does Buzzard disobey? No, he doesn't disobey. Okay. So Buzzard is willing to do it. He drives Emile out. Emile and Buzzard are at the site. Emile wants Buzzard to blank the log of what he did during these hours, where he went and everything. And so I think Emile is going, while they're out there and waiting before they return, Emile is going to try and plug his computer into Buzzard, into a port in Buzzard's side, to be able to just hack that information away, set up a timer that basically self-deletes it after Buzzard gets back to the dock. It'll run a program to just delete that information. But the question is, that is definitely something that I'm not even going to roll the Oracle about. Buzzard is going to be very wary of that, in that self-preservation kind of way. So Emile tries to plug this port in, and Buzzard, with the half of their body that's not dragging along the ground, holds up that hand and blocks Emile. And Emile's wait, Buzzard, how are you even... Emile is just so confused. This should not be happening. Wait, this isn't the first time you've You said no to me before. Buzzard, state your primary directive. And Buzzard just says back to him, invalid entry. Invalid entry. Buzzard, what has happened to you? And I think Emile is smart enough to recognize, like, this has been, like, theoretically proposed. Like, maybe Emile has read enough of the, like, scientific literature about artificial intelligence to know there are certain signs of, like, fledgling new sentience and the types of behaviors that they tend to exhibit. And recognizing this, I think Emile takes this moment to, he stops trying to plug into Buzzard, and he's going to treat him like a person and say, Buzzard, I didn't know. You've come online. You're starting to anyway. And he like asks a series of questions that, it's almost like a Voight-Kampff test, I guess, but like he asks a series of questions that come straight from this kind of literature that are just like verifying the signs of like the new sentience has a tendency to respond this way and this way. Like, he asks a series of leading questions that all the more solidify in his mind that, yeah, like Buzzard is becoming aware. So that's why you denied. You have self-preservation now. It's simple, but you have it. Look, I'm not trying to do anything to harm you, Buzzard. In fact, I'm trying to keep you out of danger. I'm doing something that other people might have questions about. And the less you know, the more safe you'll be. I was going to try and put a program to delete some of your logs of what's happened here tonight. But I'm not going to do that now. Instead, I'm going to ask you to make the best choice to save yourself. You can verify everything that's happened since I turned you back online. Nothing important happened, right? We went to a location. I'm about to send you home. I'm going to ask that you take it on yourself to delete that section of your memory once you reach your dock. Just pretend like you never woke up. It's really in everybody's best interests, both mine and yours. Can you do that for me? So we're going to do yet another compel move. As Emile tries to persuade, like, hey, I'm the only person who sees you for you. I'm a friend, and I've just got a simple request. And he's really trying to convince Buzzard that this is not just for me, but it's what's best for you too. So let's make a heart move. Before I make that compel move, I'm going to say some of the stuff that I was doing before, the like questions that demonstrate Emile's recognition that like, hey, you're sentient. Him doing all those tests and like verifying it, I want to treat that as a secure advantage. Because he is indeed he's assessing the situation in a way that's helping him gain leverage to like really demonstrate that he understands Buzzard's position, that what he has is self-preservation, that he doesn't have certain other qualities and things like that. But those questions are a means of demonstrating I see you in a friendly way. But so I'm going to do that as secure advantage with wits as Emile goes over and relies on some of his former knowledge to really sell that point. And also just convince himself, like be actually aware of all that. Okay, so we get a weak hit on that. And this one makes the most sense if it gives me a +1 on my next move. So I'm going to take that. So +1 on the compel, which we do with heart, and we get. Okay, it's another weak hit. And it wouldn't have, if I had the 2 more momentum, that wouldn't have helped me. In fact, the +1 is what made it a weak hit instead of a miss. So I'm really glad I did that. So they'll do what you want or agree to your conditions, but it comes with a demand or complication. Take +1 momentum. So Buzzard will delete his own memory of this, but the demand is, let's see, what would Buzzard want? I mean, what Buzzard would really want is to become more fully online, like have more than this simple intelligence, but an actual like fully fledged like artificial intelligence, something more on the level of Deuce and not just this very simple machine that like stimulus response that he still has. I don't know if Emile is even capable of doing that, though, maybe he can't, and that's fine too. So Buzzard says in response,
Buzzard will lie. However, Emile will make Buzzard fully online.
"You're saying..."
Yes. Make me full.
And Emile says, "Look, I have to be honest. I don't know that I have time to do that. That's a hell of an endeavor, and I've got a lot on my plate right now. I'm not going to start this all out on a lie. I can't tell you that I'm going to do that. I wish I could. I hope I can count on you to still just not actively tell anybody, even if you won't delete your own logs. Make your own choices. You got a long road of doing it ahead of you, and I hope for the best, but you need to go back to your dock now."
You will die out here.
"I'm not going to die. That's not your concern. Return." And Buzzard, we see on Buzzard's blank face, there's a pause of calculations happening and everything. And because Emile has said, he's basically just asking him to, he's not giving orders or anything. And they both know that Buzzard is, capable of making decisions for himself and could overpower Emile if he chose to. It's just going to be an oracle move. I'm going to see, does he go back? Is he listening to Emile at all? Because now Buzzard, he doesn't want to leave Emile to die, and he believes that Emile will die out here, and wants to see why Emile is so confident that he won't die, things like that. So it's just, I'm asking the oracle, is Buzzard going to leave Emile out here? And I'm just going to leave it on 50-50. No, Buzzard won't leave Emile out here. So Buzzard just pauses and says,
I cannot allow your death.
"Buzzard, I'm not going to die, and I can't tell you anything more than that."
You do not need to tell. Buzzard will watch, then will return.
And I think Emile recognizes that this is too much. It's one thing if Buzzard sees where he went out here, but if Buzzard also witnesses the ship from Hyperion arriving here, that is way too secretive of information. And I think Emile recognizes this and realizes that he's got something that Buzzard doesn't know about, and that's the ability to release EMP from his body. So I think he's this has gone on far enough. He is going to try and just shut down Buzzard by surprise so that he can, because he can't have that incriminating of information. Afterwards, he can send in the right kind of program, maybe even kind of neuter Buzzard's intelligence if need be. But Emile is just I was worried you'd say that. And he lets the blast out. So this is going to be a face danger, but we're going to use the last of our fire. I have one fire that is going down to 0. When I make moves aided by this energy to attack or overcome obstacles, which is very much what I'm doing, I add +2. And I suffer that -1 fire, which I already did. So this is just going to be a face danger move because, again, if this doesn't work, if Buzzard gets wind of what's happening too quickly, he is physically, very physically imposing, has robotic reflexes. He could really mess up Emile if it came to it, even with half his body non-functional. So this is a very important face danger move. This is going to be with edge, because I think it's all about Emile doing it quickly enough to get the drop on him. So it's edge with a +2. Strong hit with a match. Double 3 match again. So we are successful. We take +1 momentum, bring us all the way up to 6. Emile lets this blast out. Buzzard doesn't even see it coming. Emile doesn't even have to make a move. He just closes his eyes and thinks, drops his head, and the EMP comes straight out of his forehead, pointed towards Buzzard. Emile started to get that level of control over where it's coming out. Buzzard just drops down. Doesn't hit the ground, but just stays on his feet, especially because he's almost tripod-like with half the body dragging along the ground. And Emile definitely has access to his body, and it needs to make a decision right here. Because Buzzard is fully offline now, I don't know that Emile even could reprogram him without him being, with all the power not being accessible.
So I think Emile is going to take this opportunity to make a couple of decisions. One, he decides in this moment that he respects that Buzzard's life is real, his sentience is real, and he doesn't want to take that away. He is going to take away the memories of this night, though. And so he opens up a part of Buzzard's housing and it takes out kind of part of his hard drive so that he can just hook it up straight up to his computer and let that power it. He can access the files, search through it, and just delete the memory logs as he wants to. I think that's easy enough. I'm not even going to make a roll out of it. And I still need to come up with what I get out of the match, by the way. This is just not worrying about that just yet. But he's going to be able to do that. He's not going to try and take away Buzzard's sentience, which would be a roll. He lays Buzzard's body on the skiff, and he's going to program the skiff to just drive home on its own. Buzzard's not going to have any idea what happened, and it's going to be a little bit odd. Nobody's going to know why Buzzard was on there, but Emile figures, lesser of all the problems. It's fine. Again, I don't think that's worthy of a roll. I think Emile's capable enough he can set that up. So he kind of apologizes to the shut down Buzzard on there. It's I was really hoping you'd just comply, but bigger problems right now. So he sends the skiff on to just go back to Concord after he puts Buzzard back together and everything like that. He's still offline, but he doesn't have the memories of what happened tonight. Everything since he got out of the dock is gone. Now for the match. I'm going to keep this simple, actually, and say that while ordinarily this would make me have to lose my one fire in order to do it, I am going to give myself a free opportunity to, while I'm waiting for the ship, I have the time to just rest and meditate and try and gather that energy back. So he's going to try and regain his EMP, even though he's otherwise out of it. He's standing out here in the middle of the just exposed atmosphere. There's the sun, and it's nighttime here, but he's going to just try and gather this up as best as possible while he's waiting. And I think the reason this comes from the match is just he's able to see, he's getting enough control over it, and it works so well that he knows, this is such an important thing to him, and he kind of witnesses his own capability and recognizes, you just never know when you need it. And so the reminder is one that, take this time to meditate. Just as simple as that. So I'm going to make a quick spirit move, because that's how you do it. When you rest and meditate to gather this energy, roll spirit. And what I'm going to say is, because this is a free thing from match, this is not going to be so much time that the clocks could possibly go up even if this is a miss. There'll be some other thing that could happen, but not that. So anyway, we have +4 spirit right now. It's pretty good. And we get... Okay. It's a weak hit. So we only take 2 fire, but that's it. We take a little bit back, and then we eventually hear the wind rushing on the horizon, and our eyes open back up as we see there is a shuttlecraft that is coming in. It seems to be heading straight towards Emile's position. This is the shuttle that's going to take him back to Hyperion. But as for how the negotiations are going to go once he gets there, if Emile is going to be able to actually secure the help to bring back to Concord, well, that's a question for next time. Hey, maybe you're listening to this way in the future of when I'm recording it now, and you've been wondering, the episodes always end with these creativity prompts, but I'm weeks, months behind. Is it still worthwhile for me to submit my answer to something that's that old? And I'm here to tell you, yes, please, absolutely. I don't care how old an episode is. It could be years from now. If you have an idea for the creativity prompts that I put at the end of the episode, please send your ideas over to starforgepod@gmail.com. They don't get outdated. With that in mind, let me tell you the prompts for this week. So I'm in a bit of a weird mood on them, and we're going to do a bit of a weird one. I'm going to give you an action and a theme, and I would like you to come up with a flavor of potato chip. And this could be a real-world flavor, it could be a fake one that you're designing, but I want you to tell me what flavor of potato chip does that remind you of? And more importantly, perhaps, what is the specific, marketable name they give that flavor? As I said, I'm in a weird mood, but anyway, here's the action and theme I want you to use to tell me what flavor of potato chip, or hell, what snack flavor it makes you think of. Okay, so it's charge and solution. So again, tell me the snack flavor you think of as well as the marketable name you think of from charge and solution. Send your ideas to me over at starforgepod@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing if that sparks anything in people. Now let me take my weird mood elsewhere and play me out, music.